First of all, thank you for being here and thank you for making time to be here. I am a huge fan, and I'm a huge fan not because of your music, just because of your music. Yeah, that's part of it. Um, but I'm a huge fan of because of your story, and I think your story is so impactful. Your life took a very different road from what it could have taken if you had not done what you need to do. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about. You picked up a guitar at 15, right?
No, yeah, I had a guitar a little before that. It was more like 10 or 11 or 12, somewhere around there. My uncle gave me a guitar, but the only person that was really teaching guitar was the church lady. So learning Michael Royer Bodashore wasn't exactly my, I wanted to learn Van Halen
Not on your
songs.
album.
Right.
You guys and you hit it off fast. I mean, your stardom came really, really quick after that.
I think about how many flyers I put up on telephone poles in downtown Charleston.
One of those people. I was one of
Right?
those people putting up the flyers.
And
Yeah,
you
for
think
sure.
you think how excited we would be to have 25 people show up to a show at Cumberland's. And now I look at social media and kids can record a video in their bedroom and ostensibly have 100,000 people see it. Like that's astonishing, the level of reach that the beginner musician has access to. Like we would spend all day trying to get 30 people to show up at a bar,
All of a sudden, you're not just filling bars and filling fraternities, you're starting to fill stadiums. And now you've got this schedule and people telling you what to do and where to be and where to go and who to be with and what to sing and all these pressures. And you got to hop from city to city to city to city. Probably didn't get much sleep, maybe 3 hours if you're lucky on a bus, if you were lucky to sleep at all.
Mm.
And then have this pressure to go out and perform again and be at the top of your game, knowing that the people that you're on stage with and all those folks taking care of you are depending on you. That had to be an enormous amount of pressure. What was that like?
I can look back on it and say that there was a lot of pressure, but there is a wonderful thing about being 20 or in your 20s is that you're just so egocentric that you believe that you're capable of anything, right? And at the time, it was just what I was doing. And when you come up playing the bars and you're scratching and scraping and then now all of a sudden you've got resources behind you and a full schedule laid out in front of you, you just don't say no to anything. Like in my case, I got to a point where I spent 10 years working on about 3 hours of sleep a night, and sleep hygiene is so important, and no one teaches you that. I had to learn that in rehab, but my health, I was mentally ill. I mean, your whole life starts to deteriorate, and I was self-medicating with it, cocaine and alcohol and whatever else I could get, and that just starts to deteriorate.
Who was it or what was it that made you say enough?
It was when I adopted my oldest son, because up until then, I was just responsible for me, right? And so when I agreed to adopt my oldest son, my wife and I sat down, and of course she was like, "You're going to need to tone your lifestyle down." And I was like, "Of course I'll tone this lifestyle down. This is not the lifestyle of a parent. I get that." And so I tried, and very quickly realized that I couldn't. And at that point, you have to acknowledge that you've lost control, right? And so I wrestled with it for a little bit, and there's a pattern that occurs, especially with substance use disorder, and the way our brains work is we like to organize things in boxes that we understand. Cognitive dissonance is really bad for us. So we want things to make sense. And so when you're in, like what I would say is crisis stage, you start to try to make things make sense. Well, that there's no way to make sense of that, right? So what a lot of people do, and what I did, is that you start to make excuses for, well, a lot of creative people are alcoholics, and then you just try to wear it. Like, maybe I can just throw on the Hemingway jacket, and I'm just going to be that. Well, that doesn't really work either. And then there's, and for most people, you struggle against it. You try to wear it, and then the suicidal ideation comes into it, where you start thinking of yourself as a hero, and you say, well, I'm going to protect the general public by getting rid of the problem, which is me. And that starts to make sense. And so you get to sort of have this you get to attach an altruistic thought about it while also fixing the problem. And you know, to hear myself say that out loud now sounds ridiculous, but in the moment, and during that period of time, I thought, and what a lot of people will tell you, you start telling yourself, well, you know what, maybe it would just be better if my kids never knew me, because it'd be worse for them to grow up with this alcoholic father, right? And by then, you know, I had Watt and I had my middle son Ben, and so it was a struggle to, you know, they were babies, right? And when I was at this really hardcore crossroads, just trying to struggle and fighting, and then, you know, the shining beam of light of, maybe I should try treatment.
You work a lot with the drug courts. You work with Judge Brucey Hendricks in the drug courts. And I've heard, you know, some of the things that you've talked to folks about. To me, that is courageous to continue to tell your story. But what would you say to those folks that are still in the system, that you may speak to because they're in a controlled setting where they don't have a choice? What would you say to those folks who have not had the outcomes that you've had?
What I say to those people is, you don't really have a choice. Like, you're welcome to the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. So you're gonna be an example. You're already an example of what this looks like to people around you, to your community, to yourself. You're an example to yourself.
Now, recovery is that lifeline of, it gives you the opportunity to decide what kind of example you're going to be. You can either be a living example or you can be a dead example.
It's fascinating that you say you can be a dead example or a live example, and it is a choice.
I mean,
and that I've never heard that. And I think that profound, but it resonates with us because we see it
all the time,
and we deal with a lot of death in this profession and in around us in this community. There is a movement, it seems like, addressing mental health and the stigma, and you have dealt with that, and you've been combating the stigma amongst musicians, amongst the people you work with. And what has that journey been like for you?
I just encourage everybody to just speak about where they are and ask for help. I mean, never in the history of us has there been so much support for mental health, and so people can take advantage of it.
I'm such a fan because of the courage.
Well, let me say this. Let me interrupt before we run out of time and say, I can say this without fear of ever being contradicted. Where there's breath, there's hope. If somebody's still alive, they can come back. I have people go, oh, they're too far gone. Nobody's too far gone. I've seen unbelievable comebacks. It's possible. As long as they're still breathing, a comeback is possible.
Okay. What's your superpower?
Oh, I don't know. I'm too dumb to quit.
I love it. Long hair or short hair?
Short hair. I don't know.
What do the kids like most? The short or long hair?
They have no opinion about it. No. I'm a non-entity.
Okay. I remember you from the days where you were slinging a guitar and long hair, and then, but yeah, great times. Edwin, thank you so much, so
Thank
very
you.
much for
So I'm a big fan.
all the work you do, and will continue to do in this space. And can we get you back to play your guitar
Always, sure.
over at the jail?
Yeah,
Give some
absolutely.
folks some help.
100%.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.